Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Hello everyone, this is Daniel Torres, live from Henkel, Vienna, where they have their Central Eastern Europe headquarters, and I've been lucky enough to be invited here to moderate a panel about everything digital and e-commerce. And I'm sitting here with the keynote speaker they had today, who is no other than Mert Damlapinar, aka Ecommert. Nice to see you. Well, we've talked for a while already, but for formality, nice to see you.
It's great to meet you, Daniel. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'd had a lot of exchange on LinkedIn and so on, but
of course,
I had to get you here to finally see you in person.
It's always great to put a face on someone you know and you've been talking to for years, but it's always great to have personal connection now.
Hopefully it was a pleasant surprise, by the way.
It was a great, pleasant surprise, and it's always fun and excitement to meet another Mediterranean.
Exactly. From either side, by the way.
Exactly.
From either side. So Mert, first of all, I think that you're pretty well known within the FMCG e-commerce community. I know you're a humble guy, but you are well known. But maybe for the few that don't know you, maybe you can tell them a bit of where you come from, what you've done, and what you're doing now.
Yes, thank you very much. It's been a really great journey to be in e-commerce domain, and for the last 9 years, actually, I'm getting into the 10th year that I made a deliberate move to go into the e-commerce industry from originally sales and management.
How deliberate? When did you do that move?
Back in 2015, 2014, I've decided that I need to improve my digital marketing capabilities because I was managing a sales operation, I was a director of sales, and I'm managing a portfolio of clients in the CPG. But as a P&L holder of a sales department, marketing is an essential part of our day-to-day.
Yeah.
And then I realized the digital capability is getting more and important to execute our sales task, business objectives. So I started getting some education at Cornell University with the digital marketing.
So that was already when you were in the US?
Correct. So in New York, I get educated in the digital marketing, integrated marketing strategy, and how these media plans and marketing strategies integrate into the sales function. And since 2014, e-commerce became a growth lever for the CPG.
Yeah.
And it's been a journey. Now, in addition to the marketing, I'm also being improved myself on data. Data analytics also another engine right now for us. So I call it Bermuda Triangle. Sales, marketing, and data, and we got to be playing in all those corners. Yeah,
and it's an interesting one, though, because in FMCG, you have sales and marketing, which are very traditional functions. Then you have data, which is a relatively new function, no?
Correct. Yeah, data is relatively new, but if you think about the amount of data we use on our day-to-day, data insights, data analytics, all the ML algorithms doing the work for us on our media campaigns, marketing agencies, I think we all need to be a citizen data scientists at some level. We need to have a proper understanding of data, and we need to speak a similar language with our IT teams, data teams, as well as our agency partners. So I completed Applied Business Analytics Master's program at Boston University. It paid off big time because now, as we discussed earlier in the keynote with Henkel team, a lot of CPG companies are trying to build digital capabilities and improve their data analytics departments for their e-commerce execution. So this is becoming more and more embedded capability for any e-commerce team now.
And for example, for a sales key account manager, what does it mean to be data savvy?
For any key account manager or national account manager, when they identify certain KPIs above or below their business objective, they need to do a couple of things. Number one, they need to identify the driver of this change. And once they identify the driver of this change, what's causing this KPI metric, they need to figure out the next step. And this next step usually comes from predictive analytics and recommendation systems. If they need to inform their marketing team for slowing down or accelerating a media campaign, if they need to communicate to their supply chain and demand planners to make sure the inventory is available for a quick refill PO, or if they need to inform their category manager at the retailer and marketplace to make sure this PO will be accepted or there will be a replenishment in the product availability. So suddenly you're looking at 3 different scenarios based on one KPI. And this comes from data insight, or we call it actionable insight. So which action needs to be taken in simple and fast order, and how this is going to be interpreted in the relevant teams, other silos. This is where the data comes into play. And if more silos, more teams are become data educated in those regards, they will take the right action instead of waiting for other departments, other teams to take those actions for them.
Are you a savvy consumer insight professional with an interest in AI applications and market research? Discover BullChat AI, the pioneering AI-powered qualitative consumer research platform that's reshaping the consumer insight landscape. Picture this scenario: effortlessly connecting with your target audience, posing bespoke questions, and receiving insightful responses to address your business queries, all neatly compiled into an actionable report within a mere 24 hours. BullChat AI streamlines the research process, enabling you to make agile, well-informed decisions at a fraction of the conventional cost. Curious to experience the efficiency firsthand? Visit www.bullchatai.com and embark on your free trial today.
Does that mean that, like, through the language of data, is that a way to break silos, for example?
Exactly. Because when we use data-driven decision-making, not all these decisions are made by the ML algorithms or artificial intelligence. Some of the data-driven decision-making are still taken by the human beings, which are the team members. So they need this base level of data understanding to interpret the result, manipulate the next step, and take action on it.
One question. So you talk a lot about data-driven decisions, etc. A lot of people are talking out also, like, now, as we evolve into like digital and we get more sophisticated, the importance of creative content. Is it an oxymoron that data is important and creativity is important?
That's true. So if you think about it, 10, 15 years ago, creative was solely fueled by human creativity. And the process was slow and not scalable enough. Now, data can fuel the mass generation and scalability of the creativity, but there's always a fine line to walk in between today's artificial intelligence and generative AI capabilities versus human creativity. So we can still train an ML algorithm or a Gen AI language to a certain degree about our brand, about our audience, about our campaign. But at some point, nobody will know our brands and consumer better than the brand managers of the team, especially the ones sitting and working in the organization in long enough time. So again, it's a part of science and part of art. I don't think we can easily exclude human being from this mix, but definitely data is becoming a more powerful tool for them to accelerate and scale their creativity in terms of reaching mass markets in multiple campaigns, and also more personalized outcome. Because the personalization at individual level is a big task. Certain brands are doing great job about this. Certain brands are still building those capabilities. Scalability of creativity at personalization level is what data can do for us, and artificial intelligence, generative AI are doing this great so far.
And you talked about like the different eras of e-commerce. So you talked about the dawn of e-commerce, which was until
2005 and 2006. Yes.
Okay, and then we talked about clicks to bricks, which means
up until 2018 and 19. Yes.
And what time are we in now?
We are in e-commerce 3.0, and we call it highly personalized consumer era. Because nowadays, with the emergence of artificial intelligence, with the emergence of new domains like metaverse, new digital marketing tools, and new capabilities like NFT, and also the hyper-personalization of the engagement with the brands, consumer is in charge. So they are not just buying products, they want the brands and the product they associate themselves with to be a part of their identity, to be a part of their lifestyle. That's why what consumer want to buy, when consumer wants to buy, where consumer wants to engage with brand, it's all up to them. Brands only can use the new tools and new domains available at their disposal to reach those requirements, to meet with the consumer, create those experiences and instances. So we're living the 3.0 e-commerce era where consumer dictates what the brand needs to do.
So what like you work with a lot of brands. What can brands do about it?
Of course, not every category, not every brand are in a similar position. There's always different dynamics across categories and across markets.
Can we focus on like high rotation, lower margin FMCG?
Right, exactly. That's where I spend most of my career, which is food and beverage.
That's the nut to crack, right?
Exactly, because it's very mature, very saturated, very competitive, and it's hard to maintain customer lifetime value and a profitable level. But for brands like this, especially in a high consumer FMCG, usually the global scale personalization is one of the key campaigns that brands can do, because reaching the consumer at the right context, where they are engaging with the consumer, at what domain, what platform, is going to be crucial. And this requires hyper-personalization of the messaging, hyper-personalization of the experience, and if there's a strong D2C capability, even hyper-personalization of the product. So if they can also personalize the product experience in addition to the media and campaign messaging, this will create the meaningful context for the consumer, and they will continue engaging with their brand, keeping it a part of their identity. One example we spoke earlier. One example we spoke earlier, and I believe I mentioned this a couple of times before, is Empathy at Scale from Mondelez. What Mondelez is able to do with the Empathy at Scale program, utilizing the Google Cloud platform, reaching out over 1 trillion data points, and therefore they're able to create dynamic creative optimization as well as personalized creative messaging in the numbers of millions over a year time of period, which was barely 40,000 in the previous year. And this capability allows one campaign result originated in one part of the world, let's say New York or Chicago in the US, can be scaled globally to Beijing, Delhi, Frankfurt, or Johannesburg within 1 to 2 weeks' time, which is very, very short time for any media agency or any other creative campaign optimization. Therefore, scalability of media campaign at global level is huge tool for a CPG brand competing in a food and beverage category, and Mondelez is doing a great job with that.
And you've been in the US. How long were you in the US?
15 years.
15
I've been
years.
In the United States.
Now you recently moved with your family to Amsterdam. What prompted you to move to Amsterdam?
Yes, we moved to Amsterdam 3 months ago, and we're very happy and excited about it. After 15 years working in New York City and 15 years working in a high-demand, grinding environment of a Manhattan.
Yeah, you were living in Manhattan.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, we lived in Upper West Side, 57th Street and 11th Avenue. But
not a bad place to be. You know?
Great place to be, and if you're into activities in the city, but also a lot of demanding environment in the job and the corporate world of the United States. So my wife is an architect, and she worked also in global projects. As a couple, we took a selfish decision, and we decided to get more mental wellness, more work-life balance for ourselves while we're still in our prime. And to be honest, we wanted to travel, indulge ourselves with some culture and history that Europe has to offer, and visit different places in a short span amount of time instead of planning all the international trips 4 months in advance.
And also, we didn't actually mention, but you're from Turkey originally as well.
Exactly, so I'm a Turkish guy, and now being a Turkish American, still you're not able to travel at the speed you want. So I wanted to go back home, enjoy the beach time a little bit more often over the weekends, see some friends, visit family. So we chose Amsterdam. And we call this journey in the family, we moved from New Amsterdam to real Amsterdam.
True that.
And now we're enjoying Dutch culture, we're enjoying what Western Europe has to offer for us. And as of today, thanks to you and Henkel European team, we're in Vienna. We spent a lovely weekend in Vienna, celebrated my wife's birthday, and we engaged a lot of brilliant people from Henkel eCommerce ecosystem. And we're going back home today, back to Amsterdam, and probably 1 month from now, will be in either Barcelona or Frankfurt. So that's the beauty of being in Europe, because everywhere is in 2 hours travel distance. Typical weekend grocery shopping in the US. So we're indulging ourselves with this access everywhere.
And one of the things that Europe has is the high level of diversity, right? Within 2 hours. And I think that now with globalization, it's much more the same than it was. But one of the big traits that Europe has when we talk about grocery, that every market has their own grocery. I mean, even like walking down the street here in Vienna, I saw, what is it, Billa,
yes.
which I think you have in Eastern Europe, but you don't have in Germany, for instance, right?
That's true.
So
market is very diverse, not only society and people on the street, but also retailers
but
and
the trade is very
marketplaces.
different.
It's also very educative, to be honest with you, because you don't have this massive national chain that is presence and power in each market, like you have Walmarts and Amazons of the world in North America. So it's keeping you on your toes, and you need to learn the different variations, different intricacies of each player, each market. It has its own challenges, but it keeps you young and I think focused. So we like this energy. We like this diversity of Europe, and people are also more subtle. They like to spend time on their daily life, so they like enjoying going to the grocery shop and taking their little baskets for 2 days consumption.
That's me. That's how I work.
I'm learning. I'm still learning. I'm getting myself up to speed with all these variances.
There's only that much you can put on a bicycle in Amsterdam, right?
We already have bicycles.
So
yes, parked on the
you
sidewalk.
Can't put like a 2-month shopping on a bicycle.
Not a chance. No.
So what? It's interesting to hear from you, like having been in the US for so long. What are your like key observations of the European e-commerce grocery market?
Yes, that's an observation I had several years back while I was engaging with our international business units located in Europe, and I was closely working with the Benelux team, France, and Eastern European teams in Poland and Hungary. One striking difference between US e-commerce and European e-commerce is market is fragmented here naturally. We discussed about this. And teams are smaller. So even though mature markets like UK, France, or Nordic sometimes, they don't have enough data and tools available at their arsenal. And retail integrations are not as robust and broad as United States. So there's always a less number of retailers providing different integration capabilities or data services, measuring reporting tools. And CPGs are in need. They're looking for those data and tools to build their capabilities. Team size is also an effective reason for that, because there are not many people to do those jobs, so they need more technology. And I see this as an opportunity, to be honest with you, for many technology companies, consulting companies operating in Europe, because as long as there's enough budget and growth chance, companies are looking for these capabilities to be built in-house or provided in the market, so they can accelerate and catch up with their retailer partners to meet the consumer where the consumer is expecting this experience to happen. So data and tool availability, market maturity, and also the retailer's advancement level are the biggest differences between US e-commerce and European e-commerce.
And what do you think the FMCG brands that are doing a good job in accelerating their digital presence, what are the key things they're doing? So what are your key recommendations to our listeners that work in eCom?
Yes. In the current structure, given the size of the teams, and we also discussed the same topic with the Henkel team, I think organizational effectiveness and making teams more integrated across silos is one of the low-hanging fruit for the European FMCG brands. Because nowadays, if you think about e-commerce operation, it's a team sport across 4 main towers. You need to have sales, you need to have marketing, you need to have brand and content, and then you need to have supply chain. So those 4 teams should be operating in a harmonized, integrated way, operating, planning together for their budgets and JPB discussions, and also looking at similar data insights from a data pipeline. But in order to do that, those professions will generate more V-shaped employees rather than T-shaped employees.
What does that mean?
If you upskill your team with domain knowledge in more than one silo, let's give an example of sales and marketing, or supply chain and IT, or brand and sales. So suddenly you're looking at people talking same language and able to execute on 2 different silos, and your team become more and more integrated into each other. And this V-shaped employee will also make the other technical teams or production level teams to come on board and play the same game much faster, because suddenly people will start speaking the same language fueled by the data insight and executing on their day-to-day. This is one thing, upskilling the operational effectiveness of the teams. Second thing to do is accelerating the output of the existing small teams with more digital capabilities, building some digital capabilities in-house. Because one of the main problems of CPGs today, both in the US or Europe, is dependency to the agency partners. If this upskilling effort becomes productive, then suddenly some capabilities can be built in-house without more dependency to agency partners, which means marketing effectiveness, which means personalization, which means data analytical insights. And as I said, if someone who's operating on sales team and marketing team has also some understanding of data, suddenly you have a very jack of all trades. And therefore you can execute your omnichannel strategy more effectively without being dependent to your agency partner on your media plan. One example. So operational effectiveness with upskilling, building digital capabilities in-house. And I think third one would be promoting those digital capabilities to your retailer partners as an attractive point. Because if you become more attractive for your retailer partners to grow the category together, suddenly you build this collaboration much faster with the retailers other than being the customer of the retailer data. Because now retailer has covered a lot of ground in the last 3-4 years with the first party data, retail media data. So they're monetizing this information with their CPG partners. So CPGs will become customer of our retailers. As we build more of those digital capabilities in-house, as we offer this to our retailer partners to grow category together, to create those meaningful experiences for the consumer, every retailer will be happy to do that just to satisfy the consumer and not to lose share and the sales to the other competitor. So those three I think would be tremendous. We've seen some examples of this in the US, certain categories, but for the FMCG, yes, it's a journey. We still have several years ahead to get to the point where we want to be. But we got to start somewhere. And I see many companies, including Henkel, are already taking steps in this direction.
Yeah, and by the way, you're now in Europe, so I think that you're very active in this market. I encourage people to follow you on LinkedIn or connect with you. I'll put the link on the show notes. Personal opinion, Mert produces very good content, so I recommend you follow him.